मन में ये बहार तुमसे ओ बाबा जुड़ गई है मन की तार तुमसे शक्तियाँ मिल रही अपार तुमसे माता पिता सद्गुरु सखा तुम ही तो एक हमारे हो शिक्षक तुम ही रक्षक तुम ही दिल के तुम ही सहारे हो मिला सारे रिश्तों का प्यार तुमसे ओ बाबा जुड़ गई है मन की तार तुमसे शक्तियाँ मिल रही अपार तुमसे दुनिया से दूर तारों के गांव तुम मुझे ले आए हो कांटों से दूर फूलों की छाँव में मुझे बिठाए हो किरणों की बाहों का तुमसे ओ बाबा जुड़ गई है मन की तार तुमसे शक्तियाँ मिल रही अपार तुमसे भाग्य के द्वारे खुले हमको हमारे मिले आए जीवन में बहार तुमसे ओ बाबा जुड़ गई है मन की तार तुमसे शक्तियाँ मिल रही अपार तुमसे जुड़ गई है मन की तार तुमसे
Om Shanti. So tonight is a lovely opportunity for us to really get a glimpse of a feeling of the early days, both Sakar Baba and the Daddies, because Jayantibhen has had that personal experience of being with Sakar Baba and the Daddies. Just in this gathering, how many have not met any of the Daddies physically? Yeah. See, there's such a number. Yeah, yeah. So we haven't met physically, but through the experience of our Daddies, we get to learn about Daddy and the special time that we've had with them. So Jayantibhen had shared this morning that there's a story of the beggarly days. So I'm going to ask her to start with that story first, and then we had slides put on there with some photographs, but we'll see if we get to that. So we'll first start with the story that you had in mind. Okay.
It's a long story, but it's got many, many lessons to be learned, and so I think it's important that you get to hear about this. So much of the Yagya's history is connected with trance, And Baba talks about how the first creation that he does, Shiv Baba, when he comes, is to create the subtle region. And that means Brahma Baba is the one who gets the trance visions gradually, slowly, and so on. And the Yagya starts, and it's a very dramatic story, you all know that. But it would have been, and they didn't keep track of dates in those days. That was a general culture in India, but especially in the Yagya. It was very much living life in the moment, and that's it. You didn't think about posterity, you didn't think about history. So the dates aren't very clear, but you can get an estimation. So it would have been around 1940. And one particular sister, Dadi Gulzar, started having visions in 1937. So her role was quite different, and it's another story which is very beautiful. But this particular sister, she was just 14, 15 years old, and her name was Pushpa, but they called her Pushpa for short, flower. And she would go into trance, and she was quite reliable as a trance medium, in the sense that Brahma Baba would be able to see what's going on and so on. She started to go into trance, and then she brought back a message that they used to say, Almighty Baba. Almighty Baba has said that he will come to meet everyone this evening. And Brahma Baba got very happy, very excited. Even when the Guru would come to his home, he would make very special, beautiful arrangements to welcome the Guru, flowers and fruits and everything. And so now that he was hearing that Piyu, our beloved one, God is going to come and meet us, he was very happy, very excited. And so he had a new set of clothes prepared for this messenger. And this happened every time that Piyu was going to come. It was a little bit like we know when Baba is going to come, and so we prepare for Baba. So when Piyu would come, there would be big preparations, 36 varieties of food. That was part of the whole thing, fruits and flowers and new clothes. And Piyu's coming was sometimes very instructive, sometimes very sweet, a lot of love, but sometimes giving a lot of directions, but at times also revealing information. And part of that role of Piyu was actually so that we could understand that this is Brahma Baba and Shiv Baba is the one who comes in this one. And so Mama and Baba would sit in the front as students. They wouldn't be sitting by the side or anything, just in front. And at one point then, Piyu came in the trance messenger and spoke and said that this is the one who is going to be given the name Brahma. And this is the one who's going to be given the name Mama Radhe, is Saraswati, the mother. It needed a separate individual who could do this. Brahma Baba couldn't say for himself, Shiv Baba is now coming in me. It wouldn't have made sense. But it needed an outside energy to explain that this is Brahma. So all good, all necessary. It was fine. You know when Baba says in the Murli, trance can lead to ego and Maya interferes. Well, that began to happen. And so after some time, this person gathered a group around her, her friends, and started to complain to them, I should be called into the decision-making group. The decision-making group at that time was Baba, Mama, Dadi Nirmushanta, Manmoini Didi, and Dadi Brijendra. This was the little group that Baba would consult with, and they would decide how to organize things. And this sister was complaining to her friends that, why isn't Baba calling me into that? Surely if Shiv Baba comes in me, then I have the authority, I have the right to be in the decision-making group. And word got to Baba, and Baba said, it's okay, don't do anything about it, let it carry on. And Baba even gave the name Golden Group, Soneri Toli. Toli is not just the sweets, but Toli can also mean a group. And Soneri Golden, the Golden Group. And so it's a very nice name to have. But they were really just mischief makers, gossip, all the things that Baba tells us not to do, they were doing. And the role of PU stopped. PU wasn't giving that message anymore that I'm going to come. And things changed. And then one fine night, all 5 of them, it was 5 of them together, they all disappeared. Where they went, no one knew. And it was fascinating because when I'd gone to Kunj Bhavan with Dadi Janki, this was 2010, and Dadi was, a new center had started in Karachi just a year earlier. And I'd gone December 2009, and then it was very clear that it was a lovely center and there was a good group of people, and Dadi was very interested to come, so I didn't have to say too much to her. She wanted to come. But it turned out that she came exactly 60 years after she had left. Not exactly to the day, but about 60 years. She came in April, and it had been 5th of May that they'd left. So coming back after 60 years was very moving for her. And she came with us to all the places, and she was giving us the final stamp that a sister from Australia, we called her Mala. Her name was Melinda, but the Daddies used to change names all the time in the early days. So Mala had been to Karachi many times because her brother was the Consul General for Australia in Pakistan and in Karachi. So he used to call her, and she used to go on that basis. But her interest in going was not just to see her brother, but to actually do the research. So she was the one who, she's now passed on, but she did all the research of finding all the different houses. And Dadi was saying, yes, this is it. At one house, she didn't recognize it. Then she asked to go back there, and she looked at it again, and she said, yes, this is it. But why I didn't recognize it is because I used to go very quickly from Kunj Bhavan to this house and not look here or there. I'd go straight there. And this is where the women in bondage used to stay. And I used to give them class and tell them the Murali. And then I would quickly come back out again because the atmosphere generally wasn't good for single women to be out. And so this is why I didn't recognize it from the backside. I could only recognize it when you showed me the front. And so she'd asked to go back to this house. So she was validating whatever Mala had found. And then, of course, the Kunj Bhavan was where 60 Kumaris lived, and with Mama. And that's now a boys' school and Bayview School. It might still be on websites, Bayview School's website. But they were used to different people turning up and saying, we want to see around. And it wasn't too many people because Pakistan, not many BKs have been there. She stopped in the garden, and she'd recognized the garden and told us where they used to wash the big pots and whatever. And she stopped at this wall, and it was a very simple brick wall, and I couldn't understand why she was looking at it and staring at it. And so I asked her, Daddy, what's special about this wall? And she said, when I look at this wall, I ask myself, how did these young sisters scale a wall so large? Because you see, until 4 feet, it's one color brick, and then the next 2 feet, it's a different color brick. I hadn't even noticed. She noticed. But she said, this is because when we came into the building, it was just 4 feet. And Baba's thought was, I don't want the eyes of the world to fall on my new flowers, on the little children. And so he had 2 more feet built up. And so young sisters scaling this wall 6 feet tall, how do they do it? Why do they do it? Where do they get that sort of false courage from? So she was looking at that. Then, of course, inside, she saw the staircase and everything. So she was remembering that group that had left, and it was Pushpa's group, the sisters' group. They just left, and they didn't keep any touch with the Yagya afterwards either. Most of the others who left because of their own weakness, their attachments or their desires or their ego, whatever, they all came back at some point or another to the Yagya. But these people who were criticizing and gossiping, they never came back. Daddy would track them at one point because she knew them. And so she was asking their relatives, had they been to Abu? They'd never come back. So after that, they stopped offering Bhog officially. The feeling was God's in charge. It was Brahma Baba's money that had been surrendered. It was all good, clean money. So it was fine. It was Baba that was feeding them, Shiv Baba, Brahma Baba together. And so there was no official Bhog happening. And they moved to Abu in 5th of May, 1950. And it was after the war. There was a shortage of food anyway. And then to get food for 350 people all together, it was not easy. It was a different climate, and so people were getting sick, and very touching stories of how Baba would say, get some medicine for these people. 4 sisters had diarrhea, very bad diarrhea, and it was Dada Vishwakishore, who was Baba's right hand. So he went to the chemist to get medicine. Baba would ask him, and the medicine was too expensive to get enough tablets for 4. So he got 2 tablets and he cut them in pieces, and they each got half a tablet each, and they got better. So the power of faith, the power of love, that is part of the story. But this was all making Baba think very deeply. Why is this happening to God's children? Why isn't there enough to eat? Yes, you have breakfast on the berries from the trees, but you're waiting for lunch and there's nothing in the pot. So you've heard those stories, but Baba was thinking about this a lot. And then Baba said, it's because we haven't been offering Bhog to Baba. And from that time on then, the system of Bhog started, because where it was very elaborate and so much was happening for PU stopped coming and the system changed. And so now Baba was getting dal and rice, and that was it. 36 varieties earlier, and just dal and rice now, but that was fine. That was one very, very big lesson. So one was the lesson about trance, that it's prone to Maya in many ways, but the other lesson was about Bhog. And that was also then the start of service outside. So every cloud has a silver lining. And so Baba then also had the thought that trying to feed 350 mouths was a big deal. And it was time for service. And the sisters would be sent, there were invitations coming, but now Baba was telling them to respond to them and say yes and go to Bombay and Amritsar and Delhi and here and there. And Baba didn't send them out for that reason, but of course wherever they went, they were being supported by the people who were coming to them, but they were also then sending whatever they were receiving to Abu. And again, they would be left with nothing, but that was okay. More would come, but whatever they would get, they would send first to Abu. And so that connection with the Yagya was a very, very strong one. But also, Baba taught them that whatever came to the center, first of all had to be offered to Baba. Because they said to Baba, Baba, you've been feeding us all these years. When we go out there, and even if people offer, how do we know whether it's clean or it's not clean? And how is that going to help our yoga or disturb our yoga? And so Baba said to them, offer to Baba first everything that comes, then it's not a direct karmic account between you and the people who've given. They've given to Baba, and Baba has given it to you. It hasn't been that you've taken from them. And so the change of karma that comes about when God's in the picture, Baba was explaining to them. And then whatever it is was the source of that, God's responsible. You haven't taken from them. You've just taken from God. But big lesson for today. If I want God to feed me for the whole kalpa, let me offer what He has given first to God, and then, yes, God will take responsibility for feeding me. And so when people say Bhog is just a bhakti ceremony, no, it's not a bhakti ceremony. It's very much part of the karma philosophy that God is teaching us, and it's absolutely vital for Brahmins to do that. So whether it's at home or whether it's at a center, the system of offering first to Baba ensures that you'll be safe throughout the whole cycle. Baba's going to be responsible for you. So.
Great, thank you. Avinal, you want to turn one slide? So Jayantibhen, our first slide really is, we want to know your first meeting with Sakar Baba.
This was my grandmother, the one whose story I related about the brides in the home and so on. So that's my grandmother, and the other side of Baba is my Lokik mother, Rajni, and then it's Jayanti when she was 16 years old. It was in Mount Abu.
Yeah. But your experience, the first time you met Baba?
This was the second time I was meeting Baba. First was when I was 8, and there are no photographs of that. But it was the experience of a lot of love. And this time, it was a different experience, love, but also Baba gave me a task. Baba would have the Kumari sit in front, and anyway, it was a small group of about 30 people who were Sevadharis, and it was monsoon season because London schools closed July, then August is monsoon. And so I was there in the monsoon, so just the Madhuban Nivasis and Baba. And Dadi Janki was with us, so I don't know where she got busy and what isn't in this photo, but she was with us. And so the Kumaris were in front, and there were not many Kumaris at that point, about 3 or 4 of us, 3 Madhuban Nivasis and myself. And Baba looked at me and said, have you seen the picture of the ladder? And I hadn't seen it. The original pictures Baba had sent to London anyway, but the ladder was a new one. And so I said I hadn't seen it. And so he told the Kumari who was next to me, a girl called Santosh, who was around my age, and he said to her, show her the picture and explain to her the picture. And then he said to me, tonight, before I come to do Murali, you must speak you must take the picture and explain it to everyone. And I was a bit surprised, but you can't say no for anything to Baba. Baba's authority is such that you cannot say no. So through the day, she was with me, and she was anyway somebody Baba allocated as a companion for me. We still have that system till today. When new people go to Madhuban, we allocate companions for them. So that started in Sakar Baba's days. So she was actually helping in Baba's kitchen. And Baba's kitchen is where we now place our shoes. No, actually we place our shoes just outside, but there's that little space. And that used to be open to the sky, the whole one, a little tiny veranda. And in one little corner was very simple, a little gas stove, kerosene stove, not gas, kerosene, and a little sink and a chopping board. And you sit on little stools on the floor, and that was Baba's kitchen. And she used to make tiny little chapatis this size. That was Baba's chapati. And a little bit of dal, little bit of rice, and little vegetable. And Didi Manmoini would have meals with Baba. So she would be doing little things and getting them together. And so I was helping her. And at some point, as we were talking, I could feel the presence, and I look around, and we're little, and Baba's tall, and Baba's standing there in the doorway, and Baba was smiling and nodding. And so she told me afterwards that Baba had come to check what our conversation was. And our conversation had been about the Murli. So that was okay. That's why he was smiling. But when she showed me the picture of the ladder and explained it, I thought to myself, well, it's the same thing. It's like the cycle. Gold and silver, copper, iron, and that I'd been hearing since I was a titch. So that was easy. And the pictures were quite graphic, so you could talk about those. And I wasn't going to speak in Hindi. I didn't know Hindi. So I felt very comfortable that I'd speak in English and only a couple of people would understand. So that was okay. And so 8:15 at night, the picture's put up in the middle, and Baba's told the person who was arranging it that I should be given a pointer, a stick, so that I could use that. And the picture was put up in such a way that I had my back to the sister's side, and I was pointing out and explaining this, and this. And by the time I get to the end, I look around and I see Baba at the window. And I stop quickly and sit down. And Baba knew that that would happen, that if I saw him, I'd stop. So he then comes around he would always come from the sister's side anyway because of the room being there. And so he came in through and he sat down and I was there. And so he said, that was good. And then next day, that's when he spoke that Murli about being a spiritual teacher. She'll go back to London and so on and so on. So that's the story.
Great. Can we take the next slide, Avina? I think this is the same time, Jayantibhen?
It was about the same time.
Okay. Let's
Yeah.
go to the next. Do you have a story around this?
The one who's on Baba's right, that's Dadi Shilendra from Bombay.
Right.
She was Didi Manmoini's Lokik sister and also a trance messenger. And she handled all the banking and things in Bombay for the Yagya. And so Baba called her the governor.
The governor.
Governor. And then next to her is Brij Shanta Dadi. And she was a Dadi who was in Pune. And so she'd come with us for that reason. And she was related to, they were cousins, Shilendra Dadi and Brij Shanta Dadi. So from one brother's home, it was Queen Mother, Didi, and Shilendra Dadi, and the other brother, and it was Brij Shanta Dadi, and her Lokik sister, and her mother. So 6 members of a very, very powerful, prominent family in Hyderabad left home suddenly. Can you imagine? Would that not create headlines even today? One family, 6 members, all women, leaving home to come to this man who seems to be a magician. What magic spell is he casting on people? So you can understand why there was this huge force of opposition. The Hindu Sindhi community anyway was in the minority. It was a Muslim majority, but so many people leaving altogether. And in the early days, Life magazine carried this message, American Life magazine. So news traveled fast, and in that they've written that there's a man who calls himself Krishna because people are having visions of Krishna. And so who spoke what, where, and how it got muddled. But because Baba never said, I'm Krishna, but the way it was positioned, here's a man who calls himself Krishna and he's looking for 108 queens. So that was 6 people from the same family. Then myself, then 2 other Kumaris, and then on the other side, again, my granny and Rajniben and Lachu Daddy hiding behind.
Is those 6 members from the Mukhi family?
Sorry?
The Mukhi family, was that?
No, Chen Rai family.
Oh, okay.
The Chen Rai family still, they have international business.
Oh.
But the Mukhi family was Daddy Nirma Shanta's family.
Family. Okay.
And their home is a museum today.
Yeah.
Because everybody just left and you left everything behind. And the Mukhi, it used to be called Mukhi Mansion. So it's huge. I didn't go inside, but it's big. And then a few years later, they turned it into a museum. Oh. So it must be quite big inside.
Okay.
And that was Daddy Nirma Shanta's family, and that was also her in-laws' family. Yeah. And Daddy Bridge Indra, Baba's Lokik, daughter-in-law, that was the other, it was her mother's family. So again, from that family, 2 people coming to Baba.
Yeah. Okay, next slide, Avinav. I loved this photograph when I saw it. And it's just, when Baba says Guru Bhai, that's the word that came to my mind. So I don't know if you can recall when this photograph was taken, but also just any special memory with Dadiji that you may have had.
Dadiji's love and just all-encompassing. This morning I spoke about her availability, and she was just the embodiment of love. She could be very strict. One time she called me and Gayatri from New York, and she said, how come you're not bringing guests to our conferences anymore? And we said, Daddy, they can't sit and listen to things for 3 hours at a time. And so we can't bring them. And it was true, the conference sessions would be 3 hours long. And so she said, okay, you talk to the organizers and tell them to shorten the sessions, but you have to bring your guests. And we had chats with them, but they weren't ready to adapt. So then we started having separate programs for the foreigners.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. So these are the early days of London. I think
This
Ramesh Bhai ne bade?
This is 1971, when Baba sent the first delegation to London. And so that's one of the students who'd taken Gyan in India, her brother, Saroj. So that's her brother. And then the next one is Murli Dada, my Lokik father. And behind him is Ramesh Bhai, the tall one. And I can't see clearly who the next one is, but the next one with the little moustache and a bald head is Jagdish Bhai. And then it was, there's Shailendra Dadi in the black cardigan, and it was Dr. Nirmala, and it was Rosie Ben, and myself and Rajni Ben. So this was outside our home. We were in the top floor, but it was a big, big flat, and so 5 of them stayed with us for a month. And again, another very interesting karmic situation there. When my mother left the body, Daddy said to my father, what you going to do now? Because it was just the 2 of them in India. My grandmother had long since gone. And my father said, Daddy, whatever you say. And he had a lot of love and respect for Daddy. And she said, pack up everything in India and come and settle here and stay in the center. And so he did that. He packed up in 3 months and went to Madhuban and came back to London and stayed in the center. And this is before Diamond House. Diamond House was under construction, I think. And then after staying in London for many years, Daddy had come to Oxford for the teachers' retreat. We have teachers' retreats there with Daddy every year. And at that point, he went across just for a couple of weeks to be with Daddy. But he got sick, and then he continued to stay there in Oxford. And he stayed there till finally the end of his days. But his fortune that when Daddy came in 2016, she was in London. So he came to stay in London for a few days. And so she was there. I was in Oxford at a program, and I got a phone call from Hansa, and she's saying, "Come now, Murli Dada's had a heart attack and he might go any minute." And then before I could actually leave, then we got a call that the soul has gone, but you come anyway. And Daddy had been there just sitting in meditation until I arrived. And she'd been there before he left, and then after, then she said, "Now you stay." Until then, whatever other things had to happen. But Daddy sent off my mother, Daddy sent off my father, both of them. It's a very strong connection with Daddy.
Jayantibhen, how long did Dr. Nirmala stay with you in
at
London?
that time, she stayed for a month with everybody. The end of that karmic story. So he had the fortune of staying in Baba's home and having Baba and the family took care of him for 15 years. And Dadi Gulzar said to me, "Do you know why he was so lucky? He stayed in Baba's home with such love and care. It's because he offered his home to the delegation for a whole month, 5 people. Wow. Can you imagine having 5 guests in your home for a month, especially in London?" Yeah. So she said that Baba is definitely going to give him the return in the future, but Baba keeps nothing back, and Baba gives you the return even in Sangam Yug.
Wow. Yeah.
So Dr. Nirmala stayed for a month with the delegation, and then when we found a place for the center, we wrote to Madhuban, we found a place, now can you send a teacher? And I was expecting somebody to come from India, but the delegation had been in New York, and they went across to San Francisco, so she was there. And they were about to cross over to go to Japan and Asia, the rest of Asia. But Madhuban Baba asked her to come back to London, and then she was the first teacher outside India.
Okay, good. The next slide. I love this photograph as well. It feels like they were teasing you, Jayantibhen. So it's Didi, Daddy, and I think it's Mohini. Yeah.
Little Mohini.
Yeah, okay.
And Ramesh Bhai.
Yeah.
And this was in Baba Bhavan. We had a sort of window ledge that had been cushioned to provide seating. And Didi had come, this is 1982. And I don't remember what the joke was, but it is a lovely photo. Yeah. Very sweet.
Do you have special memories with Didi?
Oh, Didi was my guardian angel. When I told Baba I want to surrender, it was at that time that Baba said, "Where would you like to go?" Long story, but Didi's bit was here. "Where would you like to go?" I said, "Baba, I know nothing about India, so wherever it is you want to send me." And Baba called Didi and said to Didi, "You're going on tour. It was going to be in a few days' time. Take Jayanti with you and see where you want to settle her, Delhi or Agra or wherever it is." And so I went to traveling with Didi at that point. And when Didi wrote back to Baba about Delhi, Jagdish Bhai had found a place, and it was just by Kamla Nagar Centre. Shakti Nagar came later, but this was Kamla Nagar. And it was on the other side of the road, and you had to cross a bridge because of a very big road and a lot of traffic. And I went to see it with Didi, and it was dormitory, 12 beds were ready, and absolutely spick-span, as you would expect from Jagdish Bhai, everything in place. And she phoned Baba, and she told Baba the setting, and Baba then said, let me speak to Jagdish Bhai, and Baba cancelled it. And the reason for cancellation was, I don't want my new children to be seen by the eyes of the public. They should be safe in an environment where they're out of sight. Wow. And Jagdish Bhai, of course, instantly, Ji Baba, whatever you say. Yeah. And so that got cancelled very quickly because it was meant to be for teachers' training. And Baba at that time then said, Baba will arrange for teachers' training in Abu. And the section that's still called teachers' training has still got that name. But of course it's not teachers' training anymore, but that's the place where all the Kumaris stayed.
Any special experience or memories you have with the Ramesh Bhai and Usha Ben?
Ramesh Bhai was amazing because his intellect was very powerful, and he would tell us stories about the Yagya because he came to Baba in 1956, and although my mother came in 57, she came to London, so there was a gap in what she knew. But Ramesh Bhai would have lots of stories about Baba, and he shared the story of how he'd been engaged, and his mother was Baba's child, and he hadn't wanted to meet Baba or anything at first. He was quite happy in his own path. He had a guru. The mother was very, very distressed because the father had left, and the condition of widows in India, especially in those days, was very sad. But she was comfortable. Ramesh had just qualified as a chartered accountant, and it was Dadi Janki who gave her gyan, meeting her at a temple, and her tears stopped. And Ramesh was surprised. How did my mother's tears stop suddenly just like that? Then he got a job, and by the time he was a little bit settled, then the mother said, I would like to call my guru. You have your guru, I want to call my guru. And that meant arranging everything, if you're going to call a guru. And today we would say Baba's not a guru, but she was quite content that her son could understand the bhavna for a guru and why she wanted to call Baba. So he made all the arrangements, and so Baba came to stay with them, and then Baba would go for a walk with him. They'd drive to a place called Hanging Gardens, which is in the heart of the city, very nice area even today. And he asked Baba the question, Baba, can you share with me the notes from which you speak the Murli? You must be making notes each morning before you come into class to speak the Murli. Baba said, what notes? And then he said, but I don't speak the Murli. It's Shiv Baba who comes and speaks the Murli. And so it was an eye-opener for Ramesh Bhai. Here's this amazing personality, and it's a whole Ganges of knowledge that's flowing through him, and there's no preparation. He makes no notes. He doesn't sit and think about what he's going to say. He just remembers God, and God comes and speaks. So things like this made him understand that this man isn't an ordinary guru, but something special. I must stop telling you stories because I'm seeing that a number of people are tired. It's been a long day. So just show us the photographs, and I'm curious what else you found in terms of photos.
That's the next one. I think this must have been Rakhi.
Probably. So that's Daddies, Suresh, Didi, and Janti.
Yourself, yeah. And then the next one, Avina?
And this is still in Tennyson Road, very early days.
We'll go to the next picture and then we'll end off with that song, okay, Avina?
This is Oxford.
Oxford. Okay.
This is Robert Muller, the Assistant Secretary General of the UN. Very powerful guy who came to Abu in 1983.
Yeah, okay.
Many stories, but not now.
Okay. This could be the first delegation, or was it?
I can't see so clearly from here, but don't remember.
Right. Okay, next one, Avina.
This is Oxford.
Yeah.
In the what we call it? We call it. It used to be called the Blue Room.
Yeah.
It's the sitting room. Yeah, upstairs.
Okay. Probably call of time. Yeah.
Seems like winter time. The fire at the back.
Yeah. Okay. Then this next one.
This is definitely Oxford because we've got the marquee at the back.
Yeah. Was it probably the time when it was the opening of Oxford?
I think it was much later. Daddy Gulzar came very often to Oxford, nearly every year.
Right.
She loved being in Oxford.
Yeah.
I'm saying that because of my grey hair. I can date some of the photographs from the color of my hair.
Okay. And this is another favorite one of mine. Last one, Avina.
I don't remember exactly where this was, but this was one of Daddy's favorite gestures.
Yes. She was like pointing to something. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so we have one of Daddy's favorite songs that we thought we could end off with, Jayantibhen. Okay. Not this one, the other one. Avina, the other one. Avina, the other one. This one we know, but there's another one.
यकीन ही क्यों कर होगा तुझे देख कर जग वाले पर यकीन ही क्यों कर होगा जिसकी रचना इतनी सुंदर वो कितना सुंदर होगा वो कितना सुंदर होगा देखने को मैं क्या हर दर्पण तरसा करता है तुझे देखने को मैं क्या हर दर्पण तरसा करता है जो तेरा रस की गंगा ओ हो 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 अंग अंग तेरा रस की गंगा रूप का वो सागर होगा जिसकी रचना इतनी सुंदर वो कितना सुंदर होगा वो कितना सुंदर होगा ओ, राग रंग रस का संगम आधार तू प्रेम कहानी का राग रंग रस का संगम आधार तू प्रेम कहानी का मेरे प्यासे मन में यूं तरी जूं रेत में झरना पानी का जूं रेत में झरना का अपना रूप दिखाने को अपना रूप दिखाने को तेरे रूप में खुद ईश्वर होगा जिसकी रचना इतनी सुंदर वो कितना सुंदर होगा वो कितना सुंदर होगा वो कितना सुंदर होगा ओ,
It's beautiful to know that the Daddies are still with us in their angelic form and taking good care of us together with Bab Dada, and that we'll be together the whole cycle. Who believes that? Instant answer this time. Yeah, the Brahmin family is a happy family now, but very happy to know that our ancestors are with us and they're waiting for us to become complete and perfect like them. Om Shanti. I think most of you didn't understand the words, but just one sentence is the most important. When I see the beauty of the creation, then I say, well, how beautiful must the Creator be? जिसकी रचना इतनी सुंदर वो कितना सुंदर होगा.
Om Shanti. Sorry, I just have an announcement. Okay. Om Shanti. Just an important announcements, please. First of all, our early morning Amrit Vela at 3:30 and at 4 a.m. Meditation at 6:30. Murli class at 7. And then, very importantly, please could you all have your bags packed by 9:30 tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Om Shanti, there's a vehicle ND 300-261 that's blocking our brother who's doing the sound. Could you please move your vehicle ND 300 261? Thanks.